City and my listeners around the world. This is your host, Elizabeth Tripp. The premiere podcast of Nourish the Soul is live today at 11 a.m. on Facebook. You can visit me at elizabeth.tripprd on Facebook to join in and see the streaming podcast. I have a really cool contest going on today, and I'm asking everybody who's on the Facebook Live to share my post and to tag 2 friends to listen in. And when you do that, you're actually going to get your name put into a raffle to win a 1-hour session with me. So Alyssa, who's tuned in, thank you for liking, giving you a shout out. Share the post and make sure you tag 2 friends and your name will go in that raffle. And I'll be periodically reminding you guys to do that throughout the podcast. But I'm so excited to be here. It's the 4th week of January in 2019, and I'm wondering, how is everybody doing with their New Year's resolutions? When we started the podcast in 2019, we started a series, Be Fit, Mind, Body, Soul, How to Truly Cleanse. And this week, we're actually going to start to expand on the 4th step of truly cleansing. But remember, when we started in week 1, we were laying down this foundation that health and well-being is truly something that we have to bring together in terms of unifying all 3 aspects of ourselves. We looked at how health is not secular, meaning that we don't just look at what we're eating and we don't just try to focus on the body, but we actually want to look at the mind, we want to look at the body, and then we want to look at our soul self. And to truly cleanse, to really unify and align these 3 aspects of ourselves, we really wanted to start the process of clearing out what's been holding us back from feeling truly connected to our whole self. Because true health and well-being occurs when we are in alignment with all 3 aspects of who we are, when we are truly unified with our mind and our body and our soul. And so to kind of recap, because this is a series, I'm going to just quickly talk about step 1 and step 2 and step 3 that we've covered, because this is the Be Fit Mind, Body, Soul series, which, actually goes along with my online course. So I have a online program called Be Fit Mind, Body, and Soul. And the online program is really geared to give you that one-on-one feel with me. You get 12 videos of coaching. You get, 5 or 6 different types of meditations that I offer you. You get a really detailed workbook to follow along with all the videos, and you get assignments to kind of bring you up to speed and get you transforming quickly. So the online program is really meant to be something where you do some big transformation. The podcast is just a supplement to that, and really an arena where you can hear my stories and begin to start to awaken to what it is that you are truly being guided to receive out of this podcast. So for those of you who are really ready, to take their life and their health to the next level, I really want you to head over to befitmindbodysoul.com and actually get yourself signed up for the program. You have lifetime access when you purchase this one time, and it's at a very affordable rate when you think about it, when you have the lifetime to actually do this. So you can do this program more than once, and it's really an opportunity for you to take a innovative, new, and different approach to your well-being. So if you're interested in that, which I know all of you are who are tuning in, you've heard me talk about it for the last 4 weeks, head over to befitmindbodysoul.com. So let's recap, okay? Let's recap the 3 steps that we've already covered. And in the first podcast, it was about getting fit with our mind. So we've already begun the journey of really becoming mindful of our thoughts and feelings, what our thoughts are saying, how we're feeling on a regular basis, which is truly, really the first step to health and well-being. Because if we're not aware of how we're feeling, then we're not aware of how we're thinking, and the way we think actually influences the way we behave and the things that we do and the actions that we take. So in the second step of truly cleansing, we saw this connection with our feelings creating thoughts, and then thoughts creating behavior, and how this behavior, wasn't always serving us, so that our feelings weren't always being let out, and therefore then our thoughts were not very healthy, but more sabotaging, and they were directing us to do things like overeat or not exercise, or swing to the opposite spectrums and undereat and overexercise, and essentially keep us farther away from what we ultimately desire. So we saw there's a connection to how we feel and the choices we make with our food and body. And that was huge, because we're starting to see that there's something deeper driving us in these decisions that we're making and in these thoughts that we're having. So in the last podcast, we really looked at getting clear with the unwanted guests in our house. So we started to talk about how there is a pain or a past hurt that we have been carrying, because I explained that part of the journey here is that we are going to experience hurt, and we are going to have challenges, and there are going to be trepidations. And in our most littlest self, it can often feel confusing and not quite clear for us as to how we let these feelings go. We don't really have sometimes the support system or the correct messages around us. So we keep these feelings, which become unwanted guests in our house. And last week I wanted all of you to look at yourself and get present to the unwanted guest, because it looks like things like extra padding on our body. That's an unwanted guest. It can look like an ache or pain. It can look like a dis-ease. It can look like, a chronic migraine or a headache or fatigue. So our body, we learned last week, is truly our home. And it is a place where we can receive a lot of information. So this week on step 4, we're actually really gonna get present to the real root of our unwanted guest. And that is the little girl or little boy story that we've been telling ourselves. So in today's podcast, I'm really going to be guiding you to better understand your little boy, your little girl story, and where it came from and what it sounds like and how it can master our life and really, influence us to behave in a lot of unhealthy ways despite this desire to be healthy, to be fit, to feel like we have a wealth of vitality within. So I'm going to be sharing with you a really beautiful personal share that I've never shared before on the podcast. So it's completely new. And I just want to give some shout outs here. Vivian says on the live, as someone who's done the program, I have to say it's really made me realize that when I was unable to identify a feeling, I started to ground myself with food to just feel grounded. Wow. Thank you, Vivian, for sharing that. That's so important. And I want to shout out Vivian. She's actually my social media director. She has a business, Lumi V, And her business is all about social media marketing. She is incredibly talented. She's extremely broad in her perspective of how to take businesses to the next level. She's literally taken my Instagram from like 400 followers to nearly 1,700 followers and true followers in a matter of a couple of months. So attention entrepreneurs and business owners alike who listen to this podcast, I want you to visit her website, LumiV, and check out her newest promotion, 20% off all packages. And you can really grab an excellent deal for her to boost your social media presence and really take a business that has purpose and meaning to another level. So check her out. Thank you, Vivian, for the comment. And Austin, thanks so much for tagging your friends and sharing the video. This is great. We're gaining momentum here. So we are talking about getting present to this little boy and little girl story. And I'm going to be taking you on this beautiful journey and really helping you see your own story, because we all have a story. And it's, one that sometimes we're not even present to or really have, an awareness to. But once we've started these steps to truly cleanse, we've become more mindful of what's truly going on for us on a much deeper level. And I wanted you guys yesterday when I did the live to think about this, because it's, sometimes an uncomfortable topic. It's one where people, I think, can like kind of go into their shell. It's like, ooh, she wants to talk about my childhood. She wants to talk about my little me. And it's like, well, that's what like psychotherapists do. And people who are trying to really get inside your mind. And I want to remind you that I'm a spiritual worker. I'm an energy healer. And what I like to do is I like to bring people to the spaces within themselves that are really holding them back from their best selves. And I enjoy seeing people really get free from what has pained them or hurt them from the past. So this work is about getting present to the energies that we experienced and no longer need to hold on to. And it does offer us the opportunity to look back, because that's where our stories are written. And so in today's podcast, I wanted us to think about how when we look back on our little girl and little boy life, is there any, sort of point where we didn't have any hurt or pain? I mean, is there anybody that can literally say, I didn't experience one thing that hurt me or pained me or made me feel scared or, made me feel confused or maybe not loved or, really lonely? I can 100% guarantee that there isn't an individual who can come forward and say that they had never experienced pain or hurt. And the reason why I bring that up is because that is a part of our soul's journey. And there's a really beautiful foundation that I want to lay down before I get sharing my story today. And that is, we are souls living a human experience. And so in my practice, I help my clients see that from a soul perspective, before we really came into our bodies and came into this earth journey, we actually look down at earth and the circumstances in which that were occurring. And our soul looked at all the different possible scenarios and people and circumstances that could best serve us to rise to our best occasion, to really help us walk on the path of our highest self. And so our soul actually started to begin to choose the best situations for its growth, for its evolution. And so in my practice, I believe that we have chosen, the location that was best for our highest self, the geographic, destination for our highest self. And then we began to choose the best key players our parents, the people who were going to, bring us into this world and ultimately be the people who were going to share their own, journey with us and allow for their, shortcomings or their places in their journey to serve as teaching points for us, to serve as places for us to begin to awaken to who we really want to be. So from a soul perspective, souls choose parents who will be their best teacher and will help them actually, work through some major lessons like, learning how to share our feelings, learning to love ourselves, learning to gain confidence and believe in ourselves, learning to, feel safe and calm. So we choose parents that often mirror back to us the things that we want to learn. And in my practice, I believe that, we also then choose our siblings and our friendships and some of the major relationships we're going to have so that they can serve as catalysts for our transformation. And this was really important that I set up today's podcast like that because in this work, it's a much deeper perspective. And when we go back to these little boys and girls stories, a lot can come up for us. And when we can lay down this spiritual perspective, this soul's journey understanding, it can soften and help us understand and expand ourselves in the understanding of why certain things happened and why certain things were the way they were. And certainly if you guys have questions or anything you want to comment on, the live is open and a space where you can share. But if you're really having something come up for yourself after today's podcast, you have a couple options. You can go to the connectsupportshare.com forum. It's completely free. It's a community of people who are supporting people who are transforming and gaining a new perception of themselves, who are stepping into their new you. Or you can always privately set up a one-on-one session with me where we can get clear. I can help you get clear about what's happening for you. So we've seen now, I've laid down this really beautiful foundation here. So our soul has chosen our parents as these key players, as the teachers who mirror to us the exact things that we are looking to reclaim for ourselves. So we don't know that, coming into the journey. We forget all that. As soon as we come out of our mom's belly, we don't have any recollection of that. It's only when we are coming from the soul's, sort of energy in the soul's before we've entered into the body. So we know that beforehand, but we forget it all when we come to earth. And so to really then now help you guys, because the question was, okay, has anybody not experienced a pain? And the answer was, no, I haven't. I've yet to meet someone after all the hundreds and hundreds of clients that I've worked with who has said, I never had anything that had happened to me that wasn't, that was where I was pain-free, where my life was just completely fine. So we're going to look at then, the unwanted guests that as a result of, us all experiencing pains, all having hurts, that we carried when we were little, because think about it. When we're little, when we're 5 or 6, we don't have the know-how or the maturity level, or sometimes because of, what we want to learn, we've actually chosen parents who aren't, necessarily equipped to really help us or, give us what we ultimately were maybe looking for, a redirection or, some sort of support in some way. And it's for a purpose. Remember, I laid down the foundation here of the soul's perspective of that we choose these certain circumstances to grow and evolve. But perhaps, we had an experience that we absolutely didn't know how to explain, or that was just so scary, or that was just really confusing. Because every single one of us has had something that has shaken ourselves up, that has maybe caused us to feel afraid, that, made us scared or feel alone or maybe not heard or ashamed, or maybe not even loved. And most of us experience these incidences, these scenes in our life, between our ages of like 6 and 8 and 9 and 10 and early adolescence. And it's, again, during these times that our minds aren't, they're not fully developed and matured. And like I said, we might not have the team around us because we've chosen that way. That's going to necessarily be like, hey, you breathe out your feelings. You let them go. And this is how you do it. It just, I've met a few people who had parents like that, but majority of people that I come across, didn't have that type of parent relationship, and for a purpose. Remember, there is for a purpose. So during many of these painful events, we may remember hearing, okay, because we have chosen parents that often mirror back to us the things that we want to learn. So they're in their own current journey of learning how to be confident, learning how to be calm, learning how to love themselves, learning how to believe themselves. And they've got a baby or a child or a couple of children in front of them. We may hear this automatic conversation that a parent has, and it's so normal and common, but I want to get us present to it, that when we experience something that was scary, or when we experience something that was confusing or hurtful, or not really something we knew how to deal with, we would perhaps maybe come up against a then dialogue with a parent that was, it's your fault. You were being bad. You were wrong. You shouldn't have done that. Or you were disobeying me. So that wasn't right. Or you weren't following my order. Or you were out of line. And you're not to talk back. Or you're too sensitive. I'm just telling you how it is. Or you're too needy. Or you're too much. You're being too much right now. Or you caused this to happen. So we can see that this dialogue that we often have with parent, it's a very automatic conversation that can happen. It reinforces to our little self to feel ashamed, to feel disempowered, to express how we feel. When we hear that we're wrong, or that it was our fault, or that, we weren't following orders, or that we didn't do it right, or, that we're not allowed to talk at a certain time, or that our personality is too much, we start to write a story. It's literally like the first page that gets written. So we have a painful incident or an experience that feels confusing or overwhelming, or, really hurtful or scary for us. And we may try to actually say something. And the automatic conversation we might hear is, well, you caused this, or it's because you're too much, or it's because you didn't listen to me. And that, again, just makes us feel like we are, it's not okay to share our feelings. So it can be then a space where we hold on to what we're feeling, and, really can influence then moving forward how we manage our feelings. We get taught very quickly to hold on to feelings because we want to be good for our parent, or good for the situation, or not cause waves, or not make trouble. But yet holding on to those feelings actually keeps us more confused, more chaotic feeling, and reinforces a story then we start to write for ourselves. I'm not right. I'm not good. I am different. There's something wrong with me. And we start to feel not comfortable and secure in ourself. Remember, okay, I took you guys up on that soul level notch, because Nourish the Soul is about helping you guys go on a journey of self-discovery. This is your time to be self-reflective, to really go inward and start to look at why your soul has been called to this podcast. Because it's really no coincidence, and I say that on every show, but you're here for a reason. So I want you to just open your heart and open your mind to what the message is that you need to receive for yourself today, because there's nothing right or wrong about what we're talking about. It just is. You know, we all have a past. We all have a story. It just is what happens. There isn't anybody out there that I've ever met who doesn't had a story where they had something hurt or pain them. And it's how life unfolds in the human journey. You know, remember, Nourish the Soul believes our soul comes to this journey to really, set forth in a perfect circumstance with the perfect set of people to fulfill their soul's true potential. Everything that's placed in front of us, every experience we've had is here to catalyze transformation and ultimately growth if we so choose. Because the mind is a very powerful machine, and the ego loves to keep us in the old narrative, because it's what we came up with when we were little, and it's what we knew was safe, and it's what we knew was a way to help us. And it's like I've said on different podcasts, it's a way for the little self to stay in the driver's seat of our car of life. And it's totally okay. But when you're 10 and you're trying to drive your nice Lexus or your, Volvo or, your Honda Civic, whatever you like to drive, your Jeep Cherokee, you can't see over the wheel and press the pedal at the same time. So life can get really rocky. It can get dicey, and you can try to transition into the fast lane and you can almost crash. So my goal is to actually empower souls and those in our human journey to actually push that or take that little boy or girl self out of the driver's seat and put your new self into that driver's seat and let yourself, your soul self, really drive. So pain, guys, it's a part of the journey. It truly is. And that's why each day we want to wake up and really have such gratitude for all the beautiful things that we do have gifted, because we are always going to be challenged in some way. And we must train our minds to see the beauty before us and to appreciate it, because our mind loves to have attention towards the not so pleasant experiences. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that the pain that you've had or the hurt or, the, dialogue or maybe conversations you had with mom and dad where you weren't right, you were wrong, you were too much, you were too sensitive, doesn't mean it has to mess our mindset up. It doesn't mean that we have to feel confused and lonely and keep, trying to use the same old mechanisms, our little self mechanisms from our little self story, to be our new self, to lead a life that's really purposeful and fulfilling and freedom providing and happy and blissful, because it's totally possible. And, this is just the perfect place for me to actually share my own little story, my little Elizabeth story, because I feel that if my listeners know that I've been there and I've done this and I still work through this story, it's a continuous inward experience for me to continually challenge, is this little Elizabeth or is this new Elizabeth? So I want to give you guys a real vulnerable viewpoint of me so that you know that I am here with you and that you're not alone, and that this is something that I myself have experienced. And that's so important to me because my clients' well-being and their stories are, my number one in my practice. It's what I put my heart and soul into to truly help you break free and be the best version of yourself. It's absolutely what I love to do. But I think you need to know where I'm coming from and what I've experienced too in order to really see that we're all in this together. We really are. And it's a beautiful tapestry that we are being woven into and a beautiful experience in which we live. So I want to jump over to the story and just check in on the live and see what's happening over here. Beautiful. So wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing in the comments and everything. I really appreciate it. And anybody else who's tuning in, definitely. And Alyssa says, did the best I could for my 5 when you listen to this. Oh, wonderful. So good. You're getting things out of this. Wonderful, guys. I love it. So let's sit back, relax, and here's my story, okay? And I'm going to take you guys back to an Elizabeth that was, probably around 5 or 6. So here goes, okay? I can remember the outline of her face. Okay, I can remember the outline of her face, and in the dark, while I peeked my head out underneath my covers, I was 5 or 6, and I was completely petrified. I was waking up to something poking me on the side of my bed as I lay when I was sleeping, and I was seeing an image. She had a long nose and scraggly hair. She was about 5 feet tall and really hunched over. She was not my mom or dad. She was not one of my siblings, and I had never seen this image before in my entire life. Yet here I was in my room, in my room of my childhood home, and I was seeing this woman, this scary image, and I couldn't believe my eyes. There was something in my room, and it wouldn't leave. I crawled deeper underneath my covers, and I created a barricade of pillows with my blankets and squeezing my eyes shut and hoping it would go away. I was just so scared inside. I was so frightened. I had no idea what this was, whether I was dreaming or awake or, what could possibly be that scary person out there. And I sat there for hours. I sat underneath my covers. I was sweating. I was hot, but I was so terrified to move. And after hours, of pretending to be still, my body, eventually weakened. It got tired. My eyes felt heavy, and I drifted off to sleep. But I remember, waking up in the morning and thinking, wow, what was that? What was I seeing and what was I experiencing? Because that was just so terrifying. That woman who was hunched over, and she had scraggly hair and a long nose. She looked witch-like, and it just was so scary for my 5-year-old self. I was just so terrified. And I remember waking up in the morning and going to my mom and saying, Mom, something happened to me last night. And I told her about the lady with the long nose and the scraggly hair. And she had this weird laugh. It was like a giggle. And it felt like she was giggling, right next to me under, right close to the barricade of pillows. And I told her, I said, Mom, she poked me and she wouldn't leave me alone. And when I was sleeping, I was so scared. And, I thought she was going to hurt me. And I remember, saying, Mom, it sounds like, this person was in my room. And my mom, I remember her looking at me, and she was busy doing dishes and, cleaning up the house. And she said, honey, it was just a nightmare. There was nothing in your room. And I said, Mom, but I saw it, I saw it, and I heard it, and it was a shadowy figure, and it passed by my bedside, and it was giggly, and it was dark. I know it was nighttime, so I was awake, and she tugged on my clothes, and she tapped on my shoulder, and it was real. And my mom said, no, it wasn't real. That's not true. And you have a very big imagination, honey, but there's no such thing as monsters, and there's nothing in your room. I promise you. And that's when I first remember wondering what was wrong with me. I remember thinking, how could I have been wrong? How could I have imagined this? It was so real and it was so scary, and I know I wasn't sleeping. And how could it be my imagination? How is this possible? And I remember feeling it, and I remember it being right there. And it just was like so unimaginable that I was being told that it wasn't, real. It wasn't possible, that I was making it up in my mind, that it was something that it was imaginary. And I remember feeling really confused, scared, and then very doubtful of myself and the image that I saw, and afraid to go to bed at night, and kind of ashamed to tell people about what I was experiencing, and what was going on, because after that night, that particular kind of experience happened a lot. It didn't just happen that one time. I saw that image quite a few times, and then I would see other various different images, and I would wake up and I'd be sleepwalking, and lots of different things were happening to me as a little girl, and no one was there to explain any of this to me, why I was feeling this, why I was seeing this. And instead, I hid it. I hid it within, and I stopped talking about it. And I kept these feelings of being different and odd and strange and, really, doubtful of myself. I kept it all inside, and I buried that fear inside my body. And I created more barriers around me. So I had all of this emotion, this confusion, this fear, this, doubt in myself. I wasn't believing that like what I was seeing could be real, because I was being told that, it was imaginary, and that I was wrong. And, I started to use food as a comfort, because that's what was going around, or, that's how my household was dealing with their own emotions. So it was very easy for me to find, chips and cookies and sweets to calm me, because it felt good. It felt good for my mind. It felt good for my body temporarily. But as a little girl, I started to create padding. I created padding around myself to protect myself from all of these feelings. That's when the unwanted guest and my body tried to share that with me for the first time. And the lady with the long nose and the scraggly hair, as I got older, 9, 10, 11, 12, I had done so much work to not see this, to protect myself from it, and to, not tune into this energy, and really shut off what I had been experiencing, that I just stopped seeing her. She disappeared. But the story I had written, the narrative that I had come up with myself, that was real. I had started to write pages now about how I couldn't trust myself, how there was something different and wrong about me, how I was strange, how, no one was going to believe me when I said things, or, when I saw things, that I needed to keep my feelings to myself. So I started to write a story, a little girl story. And it really told me I couldn't trust myself, and in what I said, when I saw, and what I feel. And I stopped believing in myself, and I started to become self-conscious, and, really cared about, how I shared and what people would think about me. And I started to feel uncomfortable and insecure, because I had all of these emotions inside of me, and it was just so overwhelming for me. And I wrote this story for 25 years, because each new experience that came into my life, each challenge, each pain, it began to reinforce all the things that I had begun to learn about myself at that very young age. That I wouldn't trust my intuition. I would ignore the feelings inside of me, and I'd say yes to things even when I really wanted to say no. And I would, think that, I only deserved a certain kind of person. And so these pages upon pages became very self-sabotaging, really self-sabotaging beliefs about my looks. I wasn't beautiful, I was fat, I was ugly, my thighs were too big. I had chapters on my intelligence, how I wasn't smart, how everyone was, smarter than me. I wasn't going to succeed. I even had, a teacher in the 7th grade tell me I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. And then my guidance counselor in high school tell me, I wasn't going to be able to get to a 4-year school, that I should just think about 2 years. Community college is like, all these experiences, all these things would reinforce what I was thinking. And that I also thought I wasn't worthy, for even love, and that I would look for it outside of myself to try to fill my cup. And, I settled for emotionally draining relationships and people who weren't truly committed to me because that's what I thought I deserved. And so my little Elizabeth created a novel as she mastered my body, my mind, and my life with the most unhealthiest narrative, the most unhealthiest little story. And why? Why? Well, all because she felt a lot of fear. She felt a lot of confusion. She felt worry. She felt scared. And no one around her believed her. No one around her calmed her and, was empathetic towards these psychic abilities that I had, this, transparency that I was given to be able to communicate with spirit world, and to see entities and energy. No one in my house knew how to handle that. And there was a lot of fear around that. And for a long time, I kept that within, and I kept it bottled in. And this one incident, particularly with the woman with the long nose and the scraggly hair, and my remembering of trying to share it, it changed the paradigm of how I perceived myself. It started the page of a novel that I wrote for 25 years. And it actually was the beginning of a journey of reawakening to myself. When I look back on this now, because I only got clear with this by actually getting to the root of the unwanted guest in my home. I got fed up with feeling tired, fatigued, disconnected from myself, not in alignment with my whole self. I was tired of feeling sad and lonely and depressed. And so it drove me to work with someone that actually said, let's get to the bottom of this. And then they explained from a soul perspective how I had chosen this circumstance so that I could eventually awaken to my gifts, awaken to my, soul self, the me that came here to really experience the world in a grand way and really accomplish a real big purpose, that I needed this. That I needed parents that were scared of this energy and this, were scared to work with a child that had this empathic ability. And because, they had this themselves. My mom and dad are able to communicate with spirit too, and they were so afraid of it. And particularly my mom. And now only recently when I've shared this story with her and shared the soul perspective with her, she's become more aware that it's okay to have that gift. And she supports me now in this gift. And she loves the practice that I have and the beautiful things that I do with people. And she, is now here as a support and is helping me in so many ways and so many different avenues. And same thing with my dad. He now is, so open to his ability to dream things and see the future and, have his own intuition about stuff. And these people, my parents, totally transformed with me because I didn't stay mad at them. I didn't blame them. I didn't make this their fault, but I essentially let go of everything I was feeling and then empowered myself to create a new story, which then allowed me to share and essentially help them write a new story for themselves too. So the crazy thing is that lots and lots and lots of people out there don't have always the opportunity or haven't taken the action to get clear with their little boy or little girl story. And they live in that story for a long time, and incident after incident and experience after experience will show up, and it will reinforce what we learned way back then. And I want to offer all of you today listening in that you absolutely deserve to change your story. You deserve to rewrite it. You deserve to feel powerful. You deserve to see your gifts. You deserve then to use them in a purposeful and beautiful way. You deserve to feel healthy. You deserve to feel strong. You deserve to have a clear mindset. You deserve this all because before you came to this experience, this earth plane, you wanted that for yourself. And so you had chosen this experience so that you could reawaken to that desire, everything that you had set out for your soul self to accomplish. And I offer myself in my most truest and vulnerable way to serve as your guide. To serve as a guide for you to reawaken to who you truly are, because nothing in this world makes me happier and more fulfilled than to help you on your journey. It's what I live, breathe, and just do. I love it. So I want you to go to my website, nourishthesoul.nyc, and I want you to sign up to work with me today to take action. And if you want to, take action on the online program, go to befitmindbodysoul.com. And, lastly, I want to make the announcement that I am hosting a workshop. It's on March 3rd. It's called Awaken to Your Greatness. This is a beautiful, beautiful workshop. I'm really, really excited for this one. And it's really about helping those who want to illuminate the path of their soul, who feel, as they sit here listening to this podcast today, they are destined for great things. They just don't know how to get there. I am hosting a workshop that will absolutely help you get clear with how to get to fulfill your purpose and really feel like you can now harness your gifts, what you came here to do, in a way that is absolutely powerful. So the purpose of this workshop is to clear out the old narratives, to really clear your body and your mind of that past pain, the things that have been holding us back, and to really set you up for a brand new you. It's a full day workshop, and it is so empowering because we spend at least 3 or 4 hours building our new self, and we spend at least 2 hours letting go of our old self. So it's for those who are really ready to transform and want to take their life to the next level. I guarantee you will have an incredible transformation after this one day, and you truly will leave feeling like a completely new person and have awoken to your greatness. To sign up for that, again, you go over to my website, nourishthesoul.nyc, and you click on the events page. I'm giving $100 off the early bird until February 1st. So it's an incredible price for a 7-hour full day. You get food, you get a gift bag, and you get to transform for under $300. So it's a steal, actually. And so that's available till February 1st. After that, the price will go up. So My lovely fans, my beautiful transformers, the souls who have come to tune into today's podcast. This really wraps up today's message, and it looks like I had a lot of wonderful shares on the Facebook. I so deeply appreciate it. I'm going to be entering your name in to win a free 1-hour session with me. Thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate everything that you guys bring to the table, and I love and appreciate your listenership. This is Elizabeth from Nourish the Soul signing out. Love and light.